Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. We're going to be talking eyeshadow palettes today. Lots and lots of eyeshadow palettes. I recently uploaded a video called All About My Foundations. Michelle Wong had posted this it was kind of like a tag type of thing, and I love foundations, so I posted that, and quite a few of you said that this would be a great kind of formula to add to other categories of makeup, specifically eyeshadow palettes. Now, I could probably do it for all categories of makeup. I don't know if y'all are interested in that, but I do think that it's fun to do it for eyeshadow palettes. So I am going to go through all the categories, tell you what I think fits that category depending on the palette that is in my collection. These aren't necessarily all of my favorite palettes. In fact, if you've seen like my top 5 favorite palettes, possibly those aren't all in here. It just means that they didn't fit these specific categories. So if I've said I loved them in the past, I still love them. So let's go ahead and jump in. The first category is newest, and that would have to be the Makeup by Mario Glam Quads in Rosy Glam. I hauled this during the Sephora VIB sale, and in fact, during my haul video, I had not yet gotten it in the mail. I also have not yet used this. Now, I am hoping to feature it in this week's Get Ready With Me on Instagram. So if you're not following me there, be sure and follow me, because when this video goes up is also the day that that video will go up on Instagram. But this is the Rosy Glam. There is a bronze glam, and then I think maybe a blue one. I've never used his shimmer formula. I have his larger matte palette, but I have never used the shimmer. So this has 3 kind of shimmer colors. 2 of them are more satin, and 1 of them is super shimmery. This silver color is like big time shimmery, and then the brown is a matte. So those are kind of the colors for the Rosy Glam. And seeing as I have not even used it yet, that would definitely fall into the newest. Now, the oldest, when I was looking through my collection, goes to one that is not technically this specific physical palette, but it is this palette. I just ended up getting rid of that one and buying another one, and I don't even think you can get this anymore. This is the Naked palette from Urban Decay, and it was, I mean, this is like the OG. This is, I mean, it's just where I feel like it all started for eyeshadow palettes, at least for me. Again, this is a newer one. I believe when they were discontinuing it, they like put them on 50% off. So I just went ahead and repurchased it because my other one was really janky and really old. But this palette in general is definitely the oldest palette that I own. Duh. You get my drift. Naked palette by Urban Decay. And while I do think that palettes have come a long way since then, you really can't get better than these really neutral, everyday, basic colors. So I still like that palette. Most expensive. Okay, I'm going to show 2 in this category because my most expensive palette that I have in general is the Pat McGrath Mothership palette. Now, I'm in full transparency that Pat McGrath sent me this palette, so I didn't actually pay for it. But if we're talking about value, this is the most expensive, coming in at $125. And this is I think it's the Bronze Seduction, if that's right. Bronze something. I'll put it on the screen if that's wrong. Gorgeous palette. I always get compliments when I use this palette. I love this gold color. I love the mattes. This matte color is one of my favorites. I'm still waiting for Pat McGrath to put out an all Mothership matte palette. I will be all over that because I love the matte formula. But then you also have these really fun pops of red. I mean, her formula is just, it's very good. But I mean, it's also very expensive. So just really pretty warm colors. But if we're talking how much you're paying per gram, then it would have to go to my Tom Ford quads, which I have a lot of, if I'm going to be honest. I don't know how many I have, 10 or 11. This one is probably my favorite out of all of them, and it's in Body Heat, and it's just these really pretty, it's like a berry color. I also get compliments on this one a lot. A really pretty cream color, these 2 darker colors. But this is $88 for 4 eyeshadows. Totally understand that is not doable for a lot of people, or even if it's doable, some people are like, I just refuse to do that. And I get it. I do, because that's a lot. I mean, I think I ended up figuring out it was like $14 per gram, because these palettes are 6 grams total weight. So I had to feature both of them, because if you're talking about how much product you have per gram, Tom Ford by far in my collection is the most expensive. If we're talking about full palette, it goes to Pat McGrath. Most affordable goes to my Essence palettes, which, if you can't tell, I love. Talked about these on my Instagram channel 2 weeks ago, maybe, in my Get Ready With Me. I have 5 of them. These are $9.99 a piece, and I personally feel like they are amazing quality for the price that you pay. They have really good shade selection, so I'll show you. I'm not going to swatch all of them, but I'll show you the different ones in case you're interested. This first one is Bonjour Montreal, and those are the colors. They all have 9 pans in them. If I'm going to say con about any of them, it's going to be the fact that they have 9 pans instead of 10. I just need a little bit more symmetry than this, but that's okay. It's not enough to make me not use them. This is Aloe Berlin, which I believe I used in that Instagram video. So it's got some fun pops of, you know, your green, that really pretty moss green, which I haven't used yet. I need to incorporate that into a look. But it also has some shimmer colors. I feel like they're good mix between shimmers and mattes. Like, I like a palette to have a majority mattes and some shimmers, or at least half and half. This one, for instance, has 3 shimmers and 6 mattes. This is Salut Paris, and this is going to be your more cool toned. I feel like I've done a look with this on YouTube, actually. This is Hola Rio, which is going to be your fun, like, pinks and golds and sunsetty type colors, which is portrayed on the packaging. And then my favorite is Hey LA. And it's just really fun pinks and that fun purple, which I haven't used it yet, but I love that orange color. I've used that. I love this color right here is my favorite color out of all of the palettes. Very pretty peach, which you will soon find out is if you don't already know, my absolute favorite color to put on the eyes. But I just feel like for the price, it's hard to beat these in the drugstore. So those are my most affordable. Now let's talk about everyday. That's the next category. And you know what? All of these can be everyday. I am not the type of person who saves smoky eyes for nighttime. I am not the type of person who only uses color occasionally and on a special occasion. I am like, if I want to use it, I use it. So I picked a palette that I could have and I could travel with, and I could use it every single day and get a lot of variety out of it. And this has been in my top 5 favorite palettes for quite some time, and it's the Persona Identity palette. So I have 2 of them because they have changed their packaging. This is the original packaging, and I mean, you can tell it is loved. So many reasons that I love this palette. Half of them are matte, so you have an even 6 matte, 6 shimmer. You have warm tones, you have cool tones, you have neutral tones. You have a very pretty, this is Sassy, which is a very pretty inner corner and brow bone highlight. I love that color. Got Goddess over here, which makes for the perfect bronzy one and done eyeshadow, smoky eye. And then you've got really pretty matte colors like Audacious, which is this like rusty brick color. And then you got your browns, you know, you got this Fearless down here, which is like a black brown, great for an eyeliner, great for a super dark smoky eye. You have Humble right here, which, you know, could serve as like a matte highlight for your brow bone depending on your skin tone, but also if you feel like Charming right here is a little too dark for maybe a crease color, I mix Humble and Charming together. It's versatile. You get a ton of looks out of it. It's great quality. I have always loved this palette. So those are those swatches. You can see how pigmented, but they're also really smooth and easy to work with. Now, again, they did update their packaging to match the Persona Identity 2 palette, which I also love. And this is just a plastic packaging, brand new. They just sent this to me. I almost don't want to touch it because it's so pretty. I also have one in my kit. So I have 3 of these palettes, if that tells you how much I love them. So I think the best category for me to put that in would be everyday because of how versatile it is. So the next category is best memory. I don't really have a best memory palette, but I kind of changed this and made it my most surprising palette, meaning I was very surprised by how much I liked it. It exceeded my expectations. And that has to go to the Chanel quad in Warm Memories. Now, this was a limited edition quad. I don't know if you can still get it. And it's my only Chanel quad. I do have the larger Le Beige palette, but there's something about this formula that I was very surprised by. And I'm honestly surprised that it's my only Chanel quad because I love this formula so much. Every time I use this, I love how my look comes out. Now it's a quad, so you're not gonna get a ton of different looks out of it. But that's not really what surprised me. It was just the formula, the way it worked, the way the look ended up being that I just loved. Now, if you have this, or if you still get it, I love the color story of this. It does have that really pretty peach, but then it's like soft, cool tone purples. And I guess I don't know why I didn't have higher expectations of this, but I'm very, 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 very pleased with it. If you have a favorite Chanel quad that maybe you still can get or I can still get, let me know, because I do think that I want to add a few more to my collection because of how surprised I was at the formula. I'm not going to spend a ton of time on this next category because I spoke about it so much in my recent Sephora recommendations, but it is a worth the hype category, and y'all have to know I'm going to be talking about Viseart. Viseart is worth every single bit of hype that you have heard from it. I can't comprehend people who say they don't like Viseart, and it's okay. We're all different. It's what makes the world go round, and I appreciate everyone's opinion. Mine is that these are phenomenal eyeshadows. This is my favorite Viseart palette. I would even have to say more so than the original neutral mattes, which I have in my kit and is so banged up. I mean, the top isn't even attached anymore. I have to physically put the top on it every time I use it. And I have the dark mattes in my kit. This is the neutral mattes Malou, which is like the second neutral mattes. I have a couple of their shimmer palettes, the Paris and the Bridal Satin, I believe. And then Petite Pros. I have a lot of the Theory palettes, which are the 6-pan palettes that I have kind of taken them out because you can take all these out, and I have put them in my bigger palettes in my kit. I just love this formula. Viseart as a whole can be, especially their like original formula, can be a little bit drier. It's not a bad thing. I personally find drier formulas to be easier to blend. As a whole, they're very pigmented. These are just a few of the colors. Look at how pigmented. I love this pink color so much. But then you've got this really pretty blue that you can use for an eyeliner or a pop of color. There's nothing I don't like about this palette. There's nothing I don't like about any of my Viseart palettes. I feel like they are worth the money, and I feel like they are definitely worth the hype. Not worth the hype. Here's the thing. I don't really keep hold of palettes that I don't love. I have done many blog sales in the past. I'm not doing them right now. I have a couple of products that I probably need to stick on my Instagram and sell because they are ones that you don't have to even think about sanitation. I just feel like it's kind of a sensitive time to be selling products, even though I do sanitize everything. But the whole point is I don't really keep a hold of stuff. Now, when I was going through my collection, I came across this palette, and I just remember people raving about these palettes when they launched. Raving. So I went out promptly and bought it, and I just wasn't wowed, and I don't know why. I'm not saying it's bad. I just wasn't, I guess my expectations were set so high, it just didn't quite meet them. And they are the Milani eyeshadow palettes, the ones that are the 12-pan. And this one is Bold Obsessions. And again, it's not bad. I mean, I did a few looks out of it. I just never reached for it again. I just felt like, wow, I guess I was just expecting more. So if I had to pick from everything, it would be this. And I can't remember. I think my disappointing one is also something that I could say is not worth the hype once we get to that category. But otherwise, I would have to say this, just based on what's in my collection. My favorite from my favorite brand. Now, I have lots of favorite brands, but I feel like if you really look at the amount of items and products that I have from this specific brand, I felt like I needed to pick my favorite palette from them, and it's Jane Iredale. I mean, y'all know, I love Jane Iredale, and I have so much stuff from Jane Iredale. But this is definitely my favorite palette, and it's Solar Flare. So this is it right there. All of her palettes, her eye palettes come with a larger color right here, which is typically going to be your base color, something that you're going to use a little bit more of, something that can double as a highlight, which this definitely does for me anyways. And then you get 4 additional shadows. Now, sometimes they are a mixture of mattes and shimmers. Sometimes they're all shimmers, sometimes they're all mattes. In this specific case, they are all satin. I don't want to say shimmer because they're not metallic. I will swatch this entire palette for you. But they are more satin. Now, they're not satin enough to where I won't use them in my crease. If you have watched, this channel or Instagram, I have used this palette quite a bit. And I always use one of the darker colors in the crease, and I have no issue. I'm trying to stain my fingertips. So this is the palette. This is that bigger shade that I said I will use as a highlight. It's actually very pretty as a highlight. Y'all know Jane Iredale's Single Shadow in Allure is one of my very favorite highlight shades. And then these are the 4 eyeshadow shades. This gold right here is one of my favorite colors from within a palette. I just love it. I love this palette so much. So if you've been wanting to try a Jane palette and you didn't know which one to start with, I suggest this one because I love it. I mean, most of it's warm, but then you've got that really pretty taupey purple color right there. It's so good. Most used. I feel like y'all should know this. It is the Beauty Counter Classic Palette. Hands down, one of my very favorite eyeshadow palettes of all time. You can see I've hit pan in a couple of the colors because I love them so much. Now, I will say, if you have wanted to try any of these palettes, if you don't have the Classic palette, Beauty Counter is going to all talc free in 2021. So they are going to phase out these products. Yes, the products that they have that do contain talc are certified asbestos free. I'm not someone who is against talc. So I love this palette. If you were interested in it, I would get your hands on it while you can because, again, it's not going to be around forever. This has 5 satin shades, 3 full matte, and a topper shade, which is called Penny. Now, this is another one of my favorite colors of all time in a palette, and it's copper. It is, oh my goodness, it is so smooth and pigmented. It's one of the ones that I hit pan on, and then this color, Ivory, is probably like, wow, you hit pan on that, but you wanna know why? It's because I love this for inner corner and brow bone. So there have been many, many, many weeks and months where I keep this on my vanity, and I will reach for that no matter what palette that I use for my brow bone and inner corner highlight. I have done a look using burnished, rust, burnt terracotta gorgeousness right there. I love sienna. I can't believe I haven't hit pan on sienna because my favorite, like, super quick eye look is to put sienna in the crease and copper on the lid and call it a day. But it's just a very pretty matte shade. And then Penny, I'll swatch that real quick because that is the kind of topper shade that's in the middle of all of these 9-pan palettes. And I have used this, I believe, on my other channel, but look at the reflex of that. Not super opaque because it's a topper, but it is so reflective, catches the light so beautifully. So definitely most used. I didn't even have to think twice about that category. Underrated is actually the palette that I have on my eyes today. This one, I say underrated, not in the fact that I feel like people talk about it and don't give it enough credit. I just don't hear it talked about enough. And it's from Makeup Geek. And this, while these are singles, this was sold as a palette. So I am including it in this video for that reason. And this is the Warm palette. So it comes in a palette like this. It says Makeup Geek. And it comes with 9 shades. This is the warm. I've got the warm and the cool. This is a fabulous palette. It's very similar to the classic palette that I just showed. You can tell I love the storyline of those colors, but it's got this beautiful color up here, which is very similar to like Camel and from Bobbi Brown and Uninterrupted from MAC, kind of that gross like puke brown color that no one ever really gravitates towards, but looks fabulous on everyone. That's called Tiki Hut. I have Honey Badger on in my crease today, which is this matte color. I have Cheetah Bear, which I think used to be Cocoa Bear, if I'm correct. This one right here on my outer V, and then this one, which is out of all like metallic singles, is by far my favorite single in my collection, and it's called In the Spotlight. That's what I have on my lid. Oh, it's just this beautiful peachy, very bright metallic color. But you know, you've got your transition shades, you've got your highlight shades, you got your little bit deeper shades, and then you have your shimmer shades. So there's 3 shimmers and 6 mattes. Love it so much. And I just don't feel like I hear them talked about as much anymore. I know for a while they didn't really say much, and then they rebranded and came out with these square pans of their eyeshadows with a lot of new different colors, but I still don't hear about them. So I feel like they're underrated. All right, almost done. 3 more categories. The next is nostalgic. And when I looked at my collection, this honestly could have been tied for probably oldest as well. But there's just something that just, I don't know, it's like warm and homey and cozy when I think about my Too Faced chocolate bar. It's so nostalgic that it's the fat one. Like they brought out the skinnier version quite a few years ago, and this is still the chunky one. And I love it. As you can see, I've hit pan on 3 colors. It's just a great palette. It's a great neutral palette. It just brings me back to like when I first started really getting crazy about collecting palettes. It still smells like chocolate all these years later. It just nostalgic. Love it. Disappointing. I don't have this one. This would also kind of go into the not worth the hype category for me. This specific palette, not this brand. And it would have to be the Natasha Denona. I think it was called the Star palette. I will put a picture up on screen. I actually returned this palette. I don't return a ton of makeup, but I just could not get this to work for me. I wasn't a huge fan of the formula in this specific palette. I wasn't a huge fan of really the color story once I got it. The packaging, it was just kind of everything about it was just not for me. So that was definitely disappointing, especially for the price, because it wasn't cheap. It was Natasha Denona. It was before she started, you know, putting out the $65 smaller palette. And I just couldn't justify keeping such an expensive palette when I knew I wasn't going to use it. So I was very disappointed in that one. But then I have some of hers that I'm like, you couldn't pry them out of my cold dead hands. You know, it's just, they're different. And that is one thing I will say. I don't feel like all of her palettes are consistent in formula. Summer hit, summer miss. So, okay, finally, the last category is the most unique. And that would have to go to my Urban Decay Stoned Vibed palettes. I've talked about this. Oh, there goes the brush every time I open it. Quite a bit recently, because they did send this to me in September. It made it into my favorites video. I believe I did a look with it. But this is unique to me because of the formula of these shadows. They are almost the bouncy formula, and they are all pretty much duochrome. So if you look really closely, they have like flecks of different colors within the main color of the pan, and it just comes across duochrome. Very unique to me. I don't have another palette like this. I don't have another palette that has formulas like this. It does only have 4 matte shades. It's got 2 on each side, but I find that I can make really pretty looks out of this palette. Some of my favorite colors are Tiger's Eye. I'm glad I saved this for last because I'm going to have glitter on my hand for like the next 3 days. Vibes, just a really pretty like purple silver color. Gorgeous Oho color, which is blue. Bloodstone color, which is like it's kind of a mix between purple and green. That's the most duochrome out of the ones that I've swatched so far. That's Tiger's Eye, Vibes, Oho, and Bloodstone. One of my favorite ways to use this palette is to apply one of the matte shades all over my lid, kind of like as a base for a smoky eye, and then top it with one of the corresponding shimmer shades. Makes for a very easy two-step eye, but it looks super sophisticated and looks like you took a lot more time on it. So I feel like because of the formula of this and the colors, it would be my most unique. And that is the finish of this long video. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Let me know if you want me to do other categories, because I like the kind of formula of these categories. I like how they're laid out. I like the basis of them, and I think it would be fun. But I did feel like palettes was just kind of the next natural thing to do after foundation. So hopefully you enjoyed it. Let me know if you have any questions or comments down in the comment section. Be sure and like and subscribe before you leave so you don't miss out on any future videos. I hope you're all staying happy, healthy, safe, and sane, and most of all that you go out and have a very blessed day.